Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. It's TheSketchMonkey here. I'm back at Urban Motors to have a look at this 2007 Mazda Miata MX-5. And this one only has 33,000 miles on it, which is nuts. Because who wouldn't want to drive this thing all the time if you had it specifically since 2007? So what we're going to do in this video, I want to talk to you about why I think this car is more important today than it was back in 2007. And this is a beautiful spec as well. We have the white outside, the exterior, and then we have the brown chocolatey interior. We're going to talk about all of that, the front end, the side, the rear, the interior, and then we're going to take this for a drive. Let's have a look at some of the basic spec and tech of the 2007 Mazda Miata NC. You have a 2-liter inline-4 putting out 170 horsepower, 140 pound-feet of torque, connected to a 6-speed manual transmission. 0 to 60 is done in 7 seconds. Fuel economy sits at 25 city, 30 highway, and the price for this one is $17,990. Starting with the beautiful front end of the Miata, what I love about Mazda Miata design is that it doesn't take itself too seriously. This one is the pre-facelift one, meaning that you have a more oval intake right here at the bottom, but you still have a pretty happy looking front face. What I love about these headlights here, if you go back to this is the NC, if you go back to the first one, the NA, it had those pop-up headlights, which you can't have on since 2000 whatever. When this came out, they weren't allowed to put the pop-ups in, but I think they made it look pretty similar to the NA with the graphics that we have in the headlights specifically. Definitely has a resemblance to the original and a connection with that car. It's not just the headlights that have a connection to the NA. Look up here at the hood. We have this bulge in the middle, which I think adds some personality to this car. That also exists on the NA, but it is a lot smoother integration in there. It's almost like a soft wave in the NA, but here we got a lot more defined with this chamfer going around it, and then you have the soft part in the middle as well, looking really cool. And have a look at the fenders on the side. I know you can see it clearly on that side, just how big and beefy this fender is, and I think this also adds some character to specifically the NC and make it look maybe a little bit cartoonish, which I also think suits this type of car. So coming around to the side view of the NC Miata, and if these aren't the typical traditional proportions of a small little sporty roadster, I don't know what is. And here you can clearly see these fenders adding some width to this. From a rear view, which we're going to have a look at in a second, it looks almost like they added some sort of wide body kit onto this car with these beefy fenders. The wheels and tires here, we have 17-inch wheels, both front and rear obviously in this case, and 215 wide tires all around. When they designed the Miata, it's all about simplicity and lightness when it comes to this car. And what I'm glad that Mazda hasn't done with the ND, that is the current one, is that they kept the same formula and they didn't fall for this adding more power and more features into this car. And what that does, it also keeps the price very low. For example, have a look at this integration of the windshield here. This is a classic angle for a roadster, almost 45 degrees, and that's exactly what you want to have on a small roadster like this. And the mirrors sitting on the doors, so they're not attached in the corner here. That, to me, imagine if you had these mirrors attached to the corner of the glass right here. It just wouldn't look right. There are details like that that makes this Miata still look very good today, even if it is a 2007 model. So in this case, we don't have an automatic roof, but it's very simple to just grab this thing right here and then push it all the way forward, and then it's just a matter of hooking this notch up, and there you go. You're sitting inside of a very, very cozy Mazda Miata. But you know what, I'm gonna bring this back down again because it is extremely hot today, and since we have a Miata, we want to keep the roof down. Coming around to the rear end here, and this is also very reminiscent to the first Mazda Miata NA, specifically this bumper, how it's integrated smoothly into the top graphics. We also have these round taillights that the housing for it looks very similar to the NA, but with this clear housing for it, which I think was the first time I saw that was on the first generation Lexus IS, and those had those clear taillights that I think looked so cool. My neighbor used to have one of those brand new, and I always looked at the taillights specifically when I walked past there, and these reminds me of those taillights as well. Down low, we have a symmetrical setup with the exhaust pipe. So we have one exhaust here and one exhaust on the other side. I think it works on the Miata. I think it also would work to have just on one side the exhaust pipes on one side, because it is a Japanese car. I think you can either use the symmetrical setup, or it works just as well by just having exhaust on one single side. So this is the view I wanted to show you from the rear view when we talk about these fenders. The view that you're looking at this car from right now, it kind of feels like this is an added piece onto it, but it melts very nicely into the rest of the body. But it does feel sort of like a wide body kit on the NC, and I really like that because it plants the car. As you can see right now, even though we only have two 15mm wide tires, the car is still sitting planted on the ground, and that is thanks to these big fenders that we have both in the rear and the front. Welcome to the interior of the 2007 Mazda Miata, and it only says 33,000 miles on the clock, which is nuts to me to think about. But in here, it's all about the same vibe that we have in the exterior design philosophy of any Miata. It's all about simplicity in here. Nothing overcomplicated. We don't have any distractions from infotainment screens and stuff like that back in 2007. And I kind of prefer this layout over newer, very complex layouts that we have in a lot of different cars, pretty much every single modern car, because here, specifically in this car, this is all about the driving experience. So we do have a gauge cluster right here with the tachometer being big on the left, speedometer on the right. You have a couple of extra gauges, for example, fuel, the temp, and so on. Basic stuff within this housing. Hard plastic up here, totally fine. I'm never gonna touch this anyway. The vents look very cool. You can swivel them around in all kinds of different angles and have the air blowing exactly where you want it to blow on you. And in the middle here, we have a hard plastic, very kind of basic looking plastic, but you have everything you need in here as well. The climate control, let's fire this up because it's getting very hot. So let's get some air blowing on me right now. And use these cute, cool little vents that are all circular. You have one here, you have 4 total across this entire dash. You have the hazard lights up top, the settings for the buttons for the radios and the volume control. Down here, this is all for the climate control. So you have a bunch of different variations of where you can get the air to blow out from, which is nice to have. You have the temperature in the middle, and you have the fan speed to the right. Moving further down, you do have a cigarette outlet right here. You also have heated seats, both for the passenger and the driver. Pretty fancy for a 2007 Miata. And the best part about Miatas is that they still come with a proper, nice 6-speed manual transmission that is very short and has some very short throws to it, feeling super nice. I can't wait to take this out for a quick drive in a minute. And of course, this being a 2007, this is what you get for an e-brake. Totally fine by me. Moving on to the seats here, and this is a special spec for the Miata with these brown seats. I think it looks fantastic. The brown with the white exterior just looks great. A great color combination for this Miata. And these are both manually adjustable, both for the driver and the passenger, of course, as well. The steering wheel here, it looks very basic, but it does have some trim pieces to it and some styling around the Mazda logo in the middle. You have the controls for the cruise control to the right, and you have the controls for the volume, the radio, whatever you want to do on the left side. Nothing going on in the middle here, but it is a 3-spoke steering wheel. And I assume it is adjustable because right now it's sitting a little too low for me, so just bring it up a little bit like that, much better. To the left side of the steering wheel, you do have this circular vent, and downstairs you do have the traction control on and off with a couple of cup holders here in the middle, and also the controls for the window is right here in the middle. You have some brown hard plastic here. I'm not sure if I want to have this be black or the same color as the seat. At least they really color matched these two very well. It's the exact same tone of brown for the leather that we have on the hard plastic right here in the middle. And if you want to, if you don't have a drink, if you don't feel thirsty, you can cover these cup holders up by this little slider here. Before we set off on this drive, I got to show you something because I don't think I've seen this before. This being the key of the Miata, it looks like this. I'm sure it's a stock key. The last NC I drove had some proper keys to it and not this pad, but it does have the Mazda logo on there, so I think that's how you start the car. And then you have this little dial here, and that's how you just turn on the ignition. Very interesting for 2007 to have something like that. But with that said, we now know how to start the NC, so let's take this for a short drive and let's see what this nostalgic car is all about. First of all, let's get the mirrors correct, because right now I'm looking at myself in the mirror, which is not bad, but I still want to see what cars are behind me. I think that's better. Every time I jump in to one of these, it's just pure joy. This has a 2-liter inline-4. It's not the most powerful engine. You have 170 horsepower, so nothing crazy going on there. But we do have rear-wheel drive, and we do have lightness in this car. We do have a 6-speed manual transmission, and we do have a proper noise from this car. It's just that's what Miata is all about. It's just this old school, traditional sports car feel, and specifically when you have a convertible, it's just so nice. It doesn't matter if it just has 170 horsepower, it just feels like a proper sports car, this thing. So much fun to drive, even though I'm just going straight now. But anyway, bringing this up in the mountains on a day like today when it's 80, 83 degrees out, something like that, I would have so much fun in this car. Turning radius, very good. Low 3,000, 4,000, 5, 6, and let's put it into third. Thing about naturally aspirated engines like this, what I love about it is that you don't have any turbo lag in cars like it, which by the way, I kind of like turbo lags in turbo cars when you can feel the turbo lag kick it in. It adds to the driving experience. But this is so smooth in its power delivery. It just keeps building, and then it kind of drops off at around 55 to 6,000 RPM, and it's time to shift. And it's just a proper, fun little sports car, this thing. Miatas, this is their concept. This is what they do the best. This specific car, light, not the most powerful car, but it's still fantastic drive. Let's make another U-turn here. Tight little go-kart, and let's get back into the lot. Huge thanks again to Urban Motors for providing this beautiful 33,000 mile Miata to review. It's so much fun to review Miatas every single time. It doesn't matter which year I'm reviewing, but the reason why this is the best Miata for me is, first of all, I fit in it. That's reason number one. I don't really fit in an NA. An NB is pretty tight as well, and this just feels right. I also fit in an ND, but I actually prefer this design over the ND. I think this is more classic Miata to me, and it just feels more right. Again, thanks to Urban Motors. If you're interested in this vehicle, go and check it out in the link in the description, or just go to urbanmotors.com. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.